All right, so this is a suggestion via a channel member. Let's check it out.
This morning, Minneapolis was the site of an ICE officer-involved shooting. We've preliminary information that has been coming out know that allegedly the woman who was shot was a woman, according to Mike Tobin, who is there still on scene. Mike Tobin, if you're there, let's get the latest from you. Oh, okay. So we're going to bring it back to the couch as we talk about this. Harris, you were monitoring the tweets that were coming out from leadership there in Minneapolis, and it seemed that immediately upon learning of this ICE-involved shooting, we do know that all ICE agents are safe, but that
Okay.
leadership there was tweeting out about getting ICE out of Minneapolis, although Mike Walls allegedly has urged people to stay calm. What are your thoughts as this develops?
Well, leaving the politicians doing what they often do, Emily, I'll get to that in a second. But with this situation, just consider the backdrop here. You've got a state that's steeped in fraud. You've got federal agents on the ground arriving this week, taking a look at the $9 billion. And some have said that's a modest number. We'll see as the investigations, plural, shake out. We know that the U.S. Congress and the oversight chairman, James Comer, they're looking at this. They are bringing in people. So you've got that going on there. You also have a situation that Sandra just mentioned to me, too, where you've seen a lot of police officers leave. I mean, it's not a friendly place for cops. And because law enforcement isn't allowed to do its job. And so you've had a whole lot going on in the backdrop of this. And why is that important? All eyes on Minnesota right now. You have ICE agents on the ground trying to do what the president's goal is to do, and that is to clean up illegal immigration, violent, worst of the worst, out of the country first. ICE centers, they're trying to protect those detention centers, and our ICE agents have been under threat. A whole lot going on. It is a concoction for anything to happen. So we've been watching this story without a lot of detail, but now take a look at the middle of your screen. This is what we heard early on, and it didn't really make sense, Emily.
Yeah.
So this was a shooting, but it was a ramming. Now we can see the remnants potentially of that with the white car and a vehicle behind it. We don't know all of the details or how
Right.
that ended up, but we know that that's been a focal point as all of these vehicles now are lining the street. Residential area. Imagine what that feels like. You're looking outside, you've got people, law enforcement, you've got federal agents, everybody in your yards on that
Protesters,
street. And now
I'm guessing.
finally some details that a woman reportedly has been shot. We don't know conditions of people. We don't know any of that from the ground.
Okay,
But in
okay.
the meanwhile, we have Jacob Frey of Minneapolis. I'm aware of the shooting involving ICE agent at 34th Street in Portland. The presence of federal immigration enforcement agents is causing chaos in our city. He tweets this in the middle of all of this. We're demanding ICE to leave the city immediately.
Government in some of these places are not helping at all. I mean, I understand they're trying to kind of appease their overall their constituents, but they're not really doing much to, I don't know, bro, save their lives. Because basically, with you riling them up like this, the first thing you know that these hyper emotional people are going to do is go run to the location, right? And try to do something against the federal government. The federal government is not going to back down because they cannot show any type of weakness towards the threat of people trying to bombard them. Okay. Now, the whole idea of all these ramming things, this is also not brand new information. We've been following multiple stories basically where people, protesters, they see ICE agents and then they tend to want to throw their cars right into the ICE agents' cars, right? Like in a fit of just nothing more than raw, unbridled emotions here, guys. All right. That's kind of most likely. I'm looking at it. I mean, I'm not there. I'm not a detective, right? But I'm guessing she tried to throw her car into an ICE agent. And maybe one of the ICE agents that were standing outside decided to most likely puncture her. That seems to be the vibe. I mean, again, I'm just looking at this for the first time with you guys.
We stand rock solid with our immigrant and refugee communities. I don't know what he knows, but we're going to need to know a lot more information like the facts and not his opinion.
Right.
Now, we had a reporter
I'm
on
looking
ground
for
earlier,
some.
Mike Tobin, who talked to us about the allegations thus far. This ICE officer-involved shooting involved the person who was shot, a woman, and allegedly involved a ramming incident, which there on your screen you can sort of see. If it pulls out further, you'll see what looks like three vehicles that were sort of tangled together. And then you see there that group of people that, as Mike Tobin described it, sort of descended on the site of where it occurred. Now, there is tape keeping those people at bay. And he talked about sort of the knee-jerk reaction of these individuals that often do descend on where there is an ICE officer involved situation, We see here now plenty of space in between those protesters or gatherers there and what looks like the scene of that shooting, or at least the ramming. John, your thoughts?
Okay, guys, hold on. All right, so now we have like up to the minute, basically, information here. All right, so apparently Tim Walz is coming out here saying that that the woman was basically, let's say, punctured for no good reason, for nothing more than just the evilness of the ICE agents. Basically, is kind of what he is saying here, boiling it down to kind of disputing the government's claims that she was a threat by all means here. This is coming from ABC. This is a very left-leaning organization who is basically coming out and kind of pointing out the fact that that Tim Walz is kind of foolish here by the looks of this here. This is what Homeland Security is basically saying here. This is from Tricia McLaughlin. The woman was allegedly attempting to run over our law enforcement officers when an ICE agent fatally shot her this Wednesday morning here. Following the shooting, a large crowd gathered in the area, which is less than a mile from where George Floyd was ended in May 2020 here. The governor said he has issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard, basically. Right? Oh, so now, wait, hold on. Tim Walz, National Guard. No, I don't believe it. Is that a thing? You're not going to do that. You can't do that. That's illegal. That feels illegal, isn't it? You can't use a National Guard. Sort of thing. Right? They're supposed to be statues, right? And all on reserve, I thought, right? What happened here, guys? Either way. But all right, let's go and see where this takes us. Let's continue the story. But apparently, yeah, the right is basically, the left is basically saying that what Homeland Security is saying is a lie because, again, that's what they were going to say anyway, bro, right? But if you sit and look at it, I'm looking at it here. I didn't know the story or the incident, but what exactly did I just say before I even read the information here, guys? And I'm not a detective. I'm sure a detective got to the scene and was like, oh, yeah, this is what happened. But either way.
As we see this unfold before us.
Well, Emily, of course, we need to see more facts.
Yes.
But I can tell you the broader picture here is this is what's going to happen in sanctuary states like Minnesota or California or New York, where local officials, if they're not tolerating or at least encouraging resistance to the execution of federal law. No one doubts here that people here are in violation of federal immigration law, that ICE agents have the right under the Constitution.
They're doubting that, though.
And execute warrants to go and detain people in violation of that law. And state officials are not allowed to do what the mayor, according to Harris, just said, kicking federal agents out of a state. That is impossible under the Constitution. This mayor, once again, has showed he's not fit for office.
Also inciting violence.
Yes, he's encouraging
consistently inciting
to the execution of federal warrants. And so, unfortunately, you're going to see people in Minneapolis and Minnesota rush out to try to stop federal agents from doing their duty. And these state officers, instead of encouraging it, instead of saying federal officers should be kicked out, they should be arresting and prosecuting people there.
John, we have more facts now. Our own Michael Tobin, who's reporting on what is happening on the ground there in Minneapolis, is confirming that today ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters, he say, began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement
Bro,
officers.
was I there?
To kill them.
Jeez.
An act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots as a response. The alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. Thankfully, the ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make full recoveries, and we do pray for them. This is a direct quote coming in now. This is the direct consequence of constant attacks and demonization of our officers by sanctuary politicians who fuel and encourage rampant assaults on our law enforcement, who are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats. This is an evolving situation, and we hope to get more details soon.
Can you tell where that quote came from?
This is from Mike Tobin, per his sources, on what is happening with the ICE officers on the ground there. By the way, 1 o'clock, top of the hour, 1 o'clock Eastern time, we are expecting to get a news conference on what exactly happened there. But I do believe this is Mike Tobin's reporting directly from ICE. So I
Okay.
believe that's attributable to ICE.
Yeah, you and I are looking at the statement, and some of it's in quotes and some not. And then just the caveat that we always say that this is an evolving situation. Things will come in. That
Right,
news
right.
conference will be critical. And Emily, just look at the middle of the screen there. I don't know if we could pull out on the bottom right of what everybody else is watching, but we can see it bigger here in the studio. Just a huge number of law enforcement that are now on the scene, walking between their squad cars. Vehicles have pulled up in every single direction at 34th and Portland and South Minneapolis as they work the scene. That is a huge show of force there. You now see a line of officers that are keeping some sort of a perimeter now as well.
Well, and the line of officers is necessary because according to some of the footage that is circulating online, the rioters who were present were throwing snowballs and ice at the ICE officers who were trying to manage this scene. So the protest is still ongoing, or at least was not too long ago, in which they were actively obstructing law enforcement from doing what they needed to do on the ground. And I'll just note that this is also within the context of just a day ago, we learned that ICE officers were being told that they couldn't stay at one of the hotels in Minneapolis because the hotel didn't want to aid immigration enforcement measures. So there's clearly a coordinated effort here to prevent the federal government from simply enforcing federal immigration law. And again,
In certain
this is happening
places,
in just
at
about
least.
every sanctuary city and state around the country.
Well, and there's a fine line as these events unfold to what we will learn what occurred between resistance and violence. And when you throw snowballs and people say that's not a big deal, what if it's a white cue ball, which I've experienced in certain situations reporting on? What if it's an ice ball, which can cut your face? I mean, there's no such thing, I think, as a benign resistance whatsoever.
I mean, bro, battery is battery.
To them effectuating their duties. And we know, John, that the highest risk to officer safety is indeed in executing warrants. And here, when the sort of public writ large is encouraged to resist and does resist, then situations can
What do you think is
unfold
going to
rapidly
consistently
and
happen?
without
Right.
any type of stymieing that rapid escalation to here, which is of violence. And I know thus far, I can't see any type of struggle in the people who have appeared thus far on our screens. It doesn't seem to be that those that have arrived are engaging in a jostling yet. I don't.
They're not going to, right? Like, they're not going to, because now, like, understand what this puncturing, let's just say, also did for the local people that are, large scale protesting and trying to, create unrest and riotous behavior. Imagine what that just did to them mentally. They're like, oh, wait, hold on. They're not playing. There are limits that we can have here, right? And understand also, all of these cops are right here. Yes, I see FBI, Homeland Security. If you think that they're going to allow you to get anywhere near anything, safely, right, with your bodily autonomy consistently, there for you still, you're crazy. All right. People are stupid. Understand this here, right? Immediately walk into rooms and think 90% of people are idiots, all right? And in these type of scenarios, probably even more here, but I don't think that they're that silly and stupid to actually walk past basically a gun line of federal agents.
See that? I'm not sure if you guys do. So thus far, it seems to be, quote, peaceful in those that have descended on this particular scene right now, John.
Look, this is a result of a woke ideology possessed by the highest leadership of a state, Minnesota, which on the one hand thinks it's fine to loot the federal treasury by abusing federal programs like the welfare programs that the Congress is hearing about, and at the same time to demonize federal agents who are just trying to carry out federal law. And as you said, Emily, the toughest thing is for those agents to have to go and execute warrants. They don't know what's behind a door. They don't know who's going to try to jump on them from what direction. And for them to have to use
So why make things more hostile?
Force in their self-defense is unfortunate, but it also gives you an indication of how heavy the resistance is, the kind of danger that is arising in places like Minneapolis. Because again, I think state officials, local officials like the mayor,
They're making it worse.
encouraging or at least tolerating violence. But when they say things like kick all federal agents out of the state or out of the city, I think they're encouraging private citizens, unfortunately, to do something unhinged, like what we see this driver of this white car who had to be shot by ICE officers.
And thereby incentivizing it, because as he's saying, these refugee immigrant, communities, that'll take the pressure off of all of you. You got to get these guys out. I mean, that's inherent in what he's saying. That's not reading between the lines. Read his words. Based on DHS sources, this is another vehicle ramming incident and a long list. At least
Right.
100
This is not new.
vehicle attacks against federal law enforcement have happened since January 20th of 2025. So we've already lived through nearly a year of this. You were talking about the real threat that something like this is on those federal officers and agents. Absolutely, that's true. I didn't say 10, I said 100.
And they need the support and cooperation of the local police. Now, these ICE agents, federal agents, DEA agents, ICE agents, ATF, they go to execute a warrant. They're not there to try to police the peace-abiding citizens around. They're just there to go and catch a criminal, catch someone who's in violation of federal law. If you have mayors, police chiefs, governors saying, we're not going to protect you. In fact, we're going to encourage people to get in the way, and we're not going to prosecute or arrest anyone who tries to attack you, then you're going to see more and more incidents like this. And this is a defiance of federal law. I think it was a mistake for the Supreme Court, unfortunately, to say that President Trump couldn't call up the National Guard, because if state officers keep doing this, the only choice that a president has, and I think he has to do this, is to send in the National Guard to protect federal officers.
Sandra, I want you to comment, sorry,
like send in more
on that
force.
release that you read earlier, because there's two important notes within that I'd love to hear feedback on. So this is the ICE release that you read, an ICE officer fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fire those defensive shots.
Right.
And it says, in accordance with his training, he saved his own life and that of his fellow officers.
Thank God.
And guys, you understand the wording specifically in that statement. That statement is someone who absolutely utilizes the Second Amendment, most likely outside of even work, their job here. They also probably conceal carry. They've been to classes. They understand all the exact wording and when exactly you can, in fact, utilize some type of self-defense measures. Because how that was worded, it was worded almost like the book that you study, guys, if that makes any sense.
And so now these ICE agents have essentially their training has to encompass a daily assault. It's not simply effectuation of duties and effectuation of warrants and arrests and the like. It actually includes assault defense constantly, which is far different from a normal position description, Sandra.
He used his training and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. You have to think about these officers are going out there every single day knowing that they're risking their lives. We've talked to the family of these ICE agents who also feel like they are threatened and they are scared for their loved ones' lives every single day. I mean, you saw the number of percentage attacks that have gone up, the daily threats that they face just to go do their job, their lawful job, to carry out the law in the streets of America. That is why it's so sad that we are seeing what happened here. Thankfully, we are hearing all affected are going to make a full recovery. But this is an incredibly scary, dangerous situation.
Not all
and
affected.
People in Minneapolis have suffered. Those who couldn't flee based on the mass exodus of the police on the streets there. I mean, I was trying to just get an updated average response time from the police there because, as you know, they transitioned to public safety officers to respond to emergency situations in that city. There are still police on the ground there, but not enough of them. I mean, their call times have gone way up to respond to actual emergencies that happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason. Hold on, guys. Hold on. And I think what's funny, or not even funny, but I think that scenario has definitely moved around the United States of America to the point where you better get really accustomed to understanding how to utilize your Second Amendment privileges. Let's just say this here, because unfortunately, you can't call 911 to help you save the day. They're not going to get there in time. You're going to have to protect yourself. I mean, there's no more really truthfully protect and serve. It is basically investigate and arrest these days, I think. So yeah, I mean, listen, whatever you're going to go through, you're going to go through. So you need to protect yourself kind of at all times here. So yeah, learn how to utilize self-defense. Now, the main point of the argument that I'm going to make here immediately is the left, for the most part, demonizes and dehumanizes the federal agents that are basically doing their job. And then the right is basically, by default, dehumanizes also the protesters. And the reason why I'm pointing this out here is because even in her words here, when she stated this here, all affected, there was someone massively affected. They're not going to make it. But obviously, their actions have caused their overall demise, the reality here. But wording matters, specifically if you are on a platform speaking to millions upon millions upon millions of people here, guys. Right? So there was definitely a loss of human life, but obviously she caused it. I do notice that they are definitely leaning on the fact that ICE attacks have basically shot through the roof here. Yes, they've shot through the roof here. drastically since Trump has taken office because they're finally working and they're no longer behind desks. That and the fact that obviously the left is currently immediately demonizing any federal agent that is legitimately doing the job that they were designated to do, by the president of the United States of America and the people that basically voted him in, right? So we're in a tricky scenario here where I don't see this being a thing that's going to end. And this is more likely going to be the thing that pushes federal agents to act like this specifically faster, right? Because now they're just like, hold on, right? If you think that I'm going to allow you to do anything, like this is how you actually build fascists, if that makes any sense here, right? Like the unwielding government that delivers like absolute punishment and that type of thing. This is how you build them, bro. Right? So you call them people all these other names. They're not any of these things, right? But you're putting them into a box because it's like you're now just giving them this type of thing consistently, right? Like every single time they're out here doing their job, they're now expecting a bunch of idiots to come out and do a whole bunch of like outrageous stupidness. So what do? They become more trigger happy and more likely to pull out their guns faster, right? So now you're causing what you, I don't know, guys, right? Listen, you're causing the result that you're saying that everyone is. If that makes sense, I'm trying to make this make sense here, guys. All right, but you are definitely not. If you're out here protesting like this, things most likely are going to get worse. The more instances like this that we see kind of all over the news here. Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies, and I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings, and we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry. Right? Listen, like and subscribe.